show you in a minute how this looks like it's got layers. So it's a little high. When you got the chips flying, that's when life is good.
How are you selecting the angle of the chisel there versus the part?
Exactly the same
all
way.
by feel?
Yeah, by feel, but basically the same thing I did before. You anchor it.
ABC.
ABC. Find the bevel. And as I find the bevel, then I bring up a little bit, and that's when it cuts. And you find it, then you got to cut. Okay, I just keep going. Again, I don't want to bore you with my turning, but they should look like. And wet wood will do that. Dry wood, you'll end up with a lot of dust. Or not dust, but a lot of you don't get these beautiful shavings with dry wood.
How do you know how thin you can go on the piece?
You measure.
Well, but I'm thinking more of just structurally.
You know what? That's
Is that again just sort of a judgment call? Or
yeah. Well, here I went.
You break the third one and then you get it figured out.
Exactly. Here I went a little too shell. I went, well, this was originally a hollow form.
Okay.
In other words, there was a little hole at the top. I went a little too so I had a design change. Here, I brought this one along to show you how I went too thin there. They say if you don't make mistakes in turning, if you don't blow up enough balls, and you haven't done it. These are different kinds of calipers we use to measure the bottom. This one's for the bottom. These are for the sides. And you can tell exactly where they're at. The sides, those are for hollow forms. This is for a hole. Maybe just like this, and I can read it on the outside there. All right, we're pretty much done with bowls, except for how do you get that piece off at the end?
Good question.
That's the good question. Okay.
You can screw it.
Yeah.
Glue joint's the problem.
The glue joint's the problem, of course. Put that away. That's just some of it. Doesn't matter. Okay. Two kinds of friction chucks or jam chucks, whatever you want to call them. Where's that bowl that I did? This one right here. Okay, there's a bowl the next stage along. These are all just stages. I just got to go back on the lathe because I need to get rid of that tendon. One way. There's a friction chuck like this. This, by the way, is just one of Allen's that I modified. I made a slot in the top that this bowl goes into, and it was better last week when it didn't expand. It expanded on me a little bit, but and then I would bring up the tailstock. I've still got my hole where I had the tailstock before, the center hole. Bring up the tailstock. Put it on there, lock it down, Tighten it up. Spin it, screw it up, cut it off.
So you go right down to where that chuck is.
I go right down to it. I have a little nub at the end.
Wow.
Okay, you're always going to have a little nub. Usually what you have to do is cut it off with sharp chisel or...
Don't say handsaw.
No. No, but okay, now that's one kind. That's a friction chuck. I usually use jam chucks, which is what we're going to do now. This was just sitting up here, just like this. I made the groove the size I needed. That's all. There's another thing that was sitting up here. The jam chuck. Ooh, I didn't show you the tools I'm going to show you. Okay, I'll do that. Just a piece of anything. It's this is a old mouse pad, but it could be. Oh, people buy old wetsuits and use it, or anything that's kind of will bend. Again, I bring up the tailstock, lock it in. Tighten it down a little bit. That's pretty true. Came out pretty true. Now I bring up the tailstock. By the way, you're never supposed to bring up the tailstock when it's running, but I did. I would take a bowl gouge or a one of the other gouges, a spindle gouge, and start to take it off. It's just the friction holding on. Okay? Now these are the new tools, by the way. This is what we've all been taught with, and what we usually use most of the time. The industry is kind of going to carbide. Those tools have to be sharpened every time you use them. These tools don't have to be sharpened. What you do is you unscrew it, you turn it, and you got a new cutting edge. Unscrew it, turn it. When the cutting edges are all used up, you throw it away and get a new one. It's pretty inexpensive. Use it just like you would any other tool. Great for round. They're great for hollowing. I use them mostly for hollowing for the hollow forms, but they're great for that. This is one. It's called a Hercules tool. That is made by Thompson Tools. This is one I made myself. I got the carbide, just a piece of 1/4 inch. I use it for very small stuff. My own handle. This bowl is dry. This bowl sat for 6 months and dried. That's why I'm taking off the tendon. Now, one other kind of tool. This one, rocker cells. So those have round tips on them. This one has a pointed tip on it. That's the object. This is the new kind of turning tool. Originally made by what they call Easy Tools. Now even Sorby's making them. Everybody's making them. These are the tools I use for hollowing, making those hollow forms over there. And most of them are carbide. The carbide is good, especially good for end grain. It works real good with end grain. This is a side grain bowl, but it works really good with end grain. And they got them like this one to get around to the sides, and this one I made to get around a little bit more. But that's how howling tools are. That gets a carbide tip put on it. Okay, that's how a bowl's made.
How much is the tip?
They're not that expensive, less than 20 bucks.
How long does the tip last?
A long time, long time.
Multiple bowls?
Oh, you know, many multiple bowls.
Okay.
So now we've done legs, and bowls. Everything else is pretty much. That is a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Okay. Now I'll show you what. So now we've done pretty big stuff, right? Some fairly large stuff. We've done bowls like those. This is a little box. Same thing. Right? Ring box for a little girl. Okay. That's the next one. This is a Christmas ornament I made a bunch of them for friends and family. This hollow form is a little tricky. The reason I brought it along, it was a sample, but I used 4 different kinds of ways to fill it in. There were gaps in different kinds of wood. One of them is this stuff. And I use this stuff here too. And it's a resin. Turns just like wood. Turns easy. It's from Michael's. Don't buy it without getting a 40% coupon. Okay? I got a 40% coupon off every week. You get the 40% coupon. But you know what it's also good for? It's also good for you guys who do flat work. If you got a punky piece of wood, if you got a piece of wood that's got wormholes in it, if you got a piece of wood where you got a gap in it somehow, you can use it for any kind of.
How long does it take to dry?
About 24 hours.
Same as epoxy.
Yeah, well, it is an epoxy. It's a resin.
How thick is it? Is it going to run if you put it on a piece, or it's going to?
It's going to run, and I warm it up because I get the bubbles out of it. When you mix it together, it's 2 parts, and you mix it together, and you get bubbles in it. So you want it, so I warm it up a little bit, and it gets the bubbles out of it. It's going to run. You make a dam.